After years of arguing whether the filters were OP, whether reshade should be banned, whether NVIDIA Freestyle is unfair for AMD users, BSG got sick of it and made their own called PostFX. It got added in 12.5, so today we're going to be showing you the best settings to be able to see a little bit better, how to brighten up those colors, and also at the same time, some of the negative side effects and how it affects performance. Before we get into the filters, I'm going to quickly run you past my settings. The first thing you're going to notice is I have 70 FOV. This does not affect your filters in any way, but I have 70 FOV for anyone already wondering. In my graphics settings, these are my current graphics settings. Feel free to screenshot them or pause the video here. I also play in borderless because I'm a streamer and I alt-tab a lot, but if this is you, I'd recommend doing full screen on. And also for VSync, make sure you have this ticked and turned off in your control panel. If you're not sure how to do that, I've got another separate video. Alright, so this is PostFX. Make sure you guys have this enabled, and the best way to set up your PostFX is to go into an interchange. Alright, so we're here in interchange. You're going to need two things to set this up. You're going to need a really dark area, example would be Ollie, and you're also going to really need a really light area with a bit of grass, and I would suggest out towards the highway. We'll get to that in a second. Make sure to also bring painkillers as well, because the effect of some of these sharpen effects can be really bad with analgen painkillers. So make sure that you bring these and test this, otherwise you're going to bite yourself in the butt. Once you're in your settings, hit PostFX, go down towards visualize. Now you're going to see the difference between my current settings and without. Now these are my current settings, and you're going to notice the first thing is brightness. Now, brightness is obviously a double-edged sword. You don't want to be cranking this up too much. Although it looks great indoors, it's going to be really, really bad outside. So I've just put a very, very, very slight boost on this because some of my monitor panel depends on the viewing angles of your panel. Some TN panels have really bad brightness, so I'd increase this depending on your different preference. But when setting up your brightness, please do this outside. The next one here is going to be saturation. A lot of colors are just basically brighter and more saturated. Now, what you guys want to be doing is with saturation is if it's too high, you're going to have a hard time seeing anything in the grass. So I would suggest, depending on the colors of your monitor, roughly about a 50 gain on saturation. Too much is actually going to negatively affect your gameplay, and it's going to look like Fortnite. So the next one here is clarity. Now, clarity is a double-edged sword. Once I crank this and then go all the way down to the bottom, you're definitely going to notice the biggest difference, and it's going to be the details up here on the rafters. Now, I'm going to crank this all the way to max, and then you tell me the difference. Your first thing you're going to notice is going to pop a lot of the colors a little bit more, and you're also going to notice in the back shelving that some of the difference between the signage here in the distance really pops. But if you add clarity too much, it adds two major issues. The first one is noise. You're going to notice a bit of noise in the background if I add too much. And the second one is also it affects lighting. Now, if you have a really bright area, high amounts of clarity is going to make it much harder to see. So when tweaking with clarity, I would recommend about a 50 boost on clarity or about 60 to 70, but I wouldn't go any higher than that because it starts to actually become too much outdoors. And the next one here is Luma Sharpen. And when I turn this all the way down, it's going to make one of the most significant differences. As we have a look here in the distance, especially on this back middle shelf. Now, these next two settings are most important. Luma Sharpen and Adaptive Sharpen. Now, I've done extensive testing on both of these, and the first one and the most important is Luma Sharpen. Luma Sharpen basically takes away some of the blurriness added by TAA high or TAA anti-aliasing. It basically pops the corners of a lot of the objects in the distance and really adds that sharper detail so you can distinguish differences. But the problem with Luma Sharpen is it stacks on top of painkillers. So if you're taking painkillers, it's going to be much worse. So when doing this, be careful of this. Make sure you leave it about 80 is my recommendation. Any higher than this is going to be too sharp with painkillers in my personal case scenario. I have one sharpen in game, so this may affect depending on your game sharpen settings as well. And then the last one here, Adaptive Sharpen. Adaptive Sharpen is nice. It's a really, really nice setting, but there's one major issue with Adaptive Sharpen, and it affects your FPS. I did a lot of testing on this, and I've lost about 10 to 15 FPS, especially maxed out. Depending on the situation and how much it's trying to sharpen at the distance. Especially when you're moving, this has affected my FPS, and for this reason alone, I keep Adaptive Sharpen on 0 because I am an FPS fiend and I want as much as I can get. The next ones here are color grading. A lot of these are really cool. They allow you to add different effects towards your game, but pretty much every single one of them except for boost is, in my opinion, really doesn't do anything for you. Boost is basically just a different color spectrum here, and basically it's going to add a little bit more of an orange tinge to your game, and for some people this can allow you to see things a little bit better depending on how your monitor reacts to these. But the truth is, I wouldn't recommend using any of these because they are all pretty horrible and they make the darker areas much blurrier and they don't help at all. The next one here is obviously colorblind settings, which is amazing for anyone out there with any sort of version of colorblindness. This is amazing, and I'm glad BSG added this. Once again, there's just a different option for each type and also an intensity meter. Now with that out of the way, let's look at some comparisons. Hey guys, that's it for this video. If you want screenshots of absolutely everything, including my PostFX settings, my in-game settings, and also my NVIDIA control panel settings, make sure you check down below. You'll also find a link to my Twitch where I stream 5 days every week. And if you guys enjoy the content here today, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a massive amount. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next one.